Wonder how big brands like Nike, Airbnb, and Netflix scaled so rapidly and built products that millions love? Yes, strong business models played a role, but there's another powerful approach behind their success: design thinking. Hi, I'm Ananya from ANDAcademy. At AND, we believe design thinking isn't just for designers. It's for anyone who's looking to solve real-world problems creatively. So, what is design thinking? Let's break it down together. It is a problem-solving approach that puts the users at the center. Instead of making assumptions, it focuses on understanding what people truly need and creating solutions based on that. The process has 5 steps. First, you empathize with the users, then define the problem, come up with ideas, build prototypes, and test them to see what works the best. Now let's talk about these steps. Step 1. Empathize. This step is about understanding your user, what they need, what frustrates them, and why they behave the way they do. It's not just what they want, but why do they want it. Step 2. Define. Once you've gathered information about your users, take the time to understand it. Look for patterns and common themes. Then clearly define the problem you want to solve, because the clearer the problem, the better the solution will be. Step 3. Ideate. This is where the magic happens. You brainstorm ideas. No idea is too wild. In fact, it's the wild ones that often lead to innovations. Step 4. Prototype. Pick your best ideas and turn them into basic, rough versions. They don't need to be perfect, just clear enough to try out and see how they work. Step 5. Test. Put those prototypes in front of users. Now, observe and learn. And remember, this process is flexible. You might go back and forth between the steps, and that's okay. Now that you've got the framework, let's see how global brands use it to make real impact. Nike has been a cult favorite amongst athletes for decades, not just for their shoes, but because they get who they're really designing for. They focus on what matters the most, which is performance, comfort, and cultural relevance. Their innovations are driven by real needs, not just trends. Take the Flyknit Racer. It didn't just happen overnight. It took 195 prototypes to get it right. That's serious dedication to prototyping. And then there was the Air Force One campaign, which didn't just ask what the athletes needed, but also what they wanted in terms of style. The takeaway? Nike listens first and then designs. And this empathetic approach takes us to the next brand, a company that built its success on even something more personal: trust. Airbnb's biggest challenge in its early days was a lack of trust. People just did not feel safe booking homes with strangers. So the team used design thinking to tackle that head-on. They studied user behavior, redesigned their UI, and even added writing prompts to help hosts sound more trustworthy. The real game changer? The founders went door to door in New York taking better photos of listings themselves. That one small move doubled their bookings. Even their office spaces were redesigned to mimic apartments so employees could feel what the users feel. Because empathy builds better design. Just like how Airbnb responded to emotional pain points, the next brand focused on reducing clutter and making it easier for the user to navigate. Netflix changed how the world watches content, but more importantly, they did it by watching us. They observed that too many choices were overwhelming their users, so they launched the shuffle button, a simple way to take the pressure off and just play something, anything. Then came skip intro, because users value efficiency. There is also the because you watched, a feature driven entirely by user behavior. Even their visuals evolved. Static posters were replaced with videos because motion grabs attention better. That kind of user-first thinking helped another space completely transform: healthcare for children. Imagine being a child, scared to walk into cold, loud MRI room. Doug Deeds, a designer at GE Healthcare, saw that fear firsthand. But instead of just tweaking the machine, he took a step back. He visited daycares, spoke to child psychologists, and even brainstormed with kids themselves. The result? the adventure series. MRI machines turned into pirate ships, outer space missions, and jungle safaris. Suddenly, scans weren't scary. They were stories. And the impact? Less anxiety, less need for anesthesia, and patient satisfaction shot up to over 90%. This is what happens when empathy meets creativity, when you design an experience and not just a product. And speaking of experiences, the next brand designed every touch point of their journey by stepping into the shoes of their users. Uber Eats didn't just build a food delivery app. They built an ecosystem and used design thinking to understand every role in it. They launched the Walkabout program, where employees visited different cities and explored local food habits. They also spoke to people involved in the process, like delivery partners, restaurant owners, and customers. Then came order shadowing, where team members rode along with delivery partners, watching how orders flowed, what were the problems, and what could be improved. And to tie it all together, they had fireside chats, where all stakeholders shared feedback in an informal setting. And these informal conversations discovered what really needed to change. Uber Eats shows us that innovations happen when we listen at every level, from tech to street. And sometimes the key to better design is observing the smallest users. OralB had a simple goal: making brushing fun and easy for kids. So they partnered with Ideate and did something brilliant. They watched how kids actually held their toothbrushes. Turns out, kids don't pinch the handle. They grab the handles with their whole hands. So OralB created this squish gripper, a wider, softer handle with playful textures and colors. That insight turned a basic object into something joyful and effective for kids. But what if kids could do more than just brush? What if they could code? Google's Creative Lab, along with Ideate, launched Project Blocks, a tangible programming platform for kids. Instead of screens, kids use physical blocks and pucks to build commands. These were connected to something called a brain board, which brought their ideas to life. This wasn't just tech. It was empathy in action. It's proof that when we design with users, especially the ones who can't articulate their needs easily, we build better futures. So whether it's reducing fear in hospitals, building trust in homes, or turning choice paralysis into joy, all these stories have one powerful tool in common: design thinking. Now here's the thing. Design thinking might look intuitive, but doing it well, that takes structure, tools, and a whole lot of empathy. At ANDAcademy, we teach design thinking not just as a theory, but as a practical, problem-solving mindset. So if these examples inspired you, like this video and subscribe to ANDAcademy's channel for more inspiring stories like these. Tell us in the comments which brand story stood out to you the most. And if you want to dive deeper into how these brands use design thinking, check out the blog link in the description below. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay curious and keep designing with empathy.